Go ahead. Okay, welcome back to the Action Jack-0ffs podcast. This is the show where we talk about the very best and favorite action movies of all time. Today we are going to be talking about Hard Target, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. This is the directorial debut in America for a Hollywood production for director John Woo. Very interesting. What?
Humble beginnings, let me tell you.
Humble indeed, humble indeed. But honestly, like it actually does feel like a John Woo movie when you like look at it from that lens.
Especially the last 30 minutes.
Especially the last 30 minutes, especially I mean, I get a lot of like vibes of that throughout the whole movie. Like it's very stylized in like what it's trying to be, like what it is. Um
A tragedy.
a tragedy, I wouldn't say that, but so basically like preface this, we've got me the good cop, we got Lincoln the bad cop here, and we're both
I
coming.
liked I liked moments of it.
Yeah, but you can go ahead and just give us
I
your
had my time.
you can go ahead and just give us your initial thoughts. It's okay.
I mean, just $100 a day, dude. The inflation must be crazy.
Oh
I
yeah.
couldn't. You couldn't pay me $100 a day to talk about this thing.
Hey, it's not that bad.
Oh, it's not that bad. But I like. I'm gonna tease.
You're gonna exaggerate, you're gonna
I
hyperbole.
said tragedy because that is a line in the movie where he goes, "Oh, a tragedy,
A tragedy. And
a tragedy."
his very thick French accent. His Brussels accent, which
Perfection is what it
kind
is.
of brings me to my initial question here. Jean-Claude Van Damme, you love him or hate him?
Oh, he's the worst.
Really?
He's the absolute worst. I don't know who gave him movies to make.
Somebody did. Somebody somewhere along the line was like, "Here's a guy. I'll say this about Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's probably one of the best kickers I've ever seen in an action movie."
Oh no, he's one of the best stuntmen who they just put in front of a camera and told he could have a bad accent. It was amazing.
Um,
I respect him so much for it.
yeah, I mean, he looks good on camera. I
Hmm.
think is his biggest thing. He looks
He
good on
looks amazing.
camera. Um, like in terms of the echelon of Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, I would say that he's got some bangers, you know?
Some bangers, some bangers.
Like for instance, there's this movie which
All right.
it's you love or hate it. There's Universal Soldier, which is I'd say one of his more popular ones. Kickboxer, I think, is supposed to be like his most legendary one. Like that's like the movie that put him on the map. Um,
And then Kumite,
I don't think I've ever
which
seen.
is just the same exact. It and Kickboxer and Kumite are the exact same movie.
Is Kumite the one where he's like doing Muay Thai against that one guy and his brother gets like handicapped or something? I might be getting.
Similar. Hey, that could be Kickboxer for all you're telling me.
No, but you had uh you had Time Cop, you had Bloodsport is the one I'm thinking of.
Bloodsport, that's the other good one.
Yeah, Bloodsport I think is the one I'm thinking of. Lionheart, which I really like. Double Impact, the one where he plays himself in two roles, like he plays his long lost twin brother and himself.
That's incredible. I didn't know that one existed.
Yeah, it's actually not bad. Technology is actually probably the most impressive part about the movie, but getting into Hard Target proper, I'd say this is somewhere in the it's okay sphere of his movies.
Hey, you take your pig stick and your boyfriend and catch a bus.
Yes, I'm glad you took the notes on this one
Dude, I took
because
so many notes.
this is odd for me because I definitely so I did not take any notes for this movie. I have like a few mental notes of like some of like a few mental things that I like kept track of, like my favorite still frames and such. but I did not take any notes for this movie because I was genuinely just watching the movie, having a good time. Also, we're at
So
a
lame.
we're at a
What
disadvantage.
a non-critic.
I know. And we're also at a disadvantage because the movie was on Amazon Prime, and then it was only on when we watched it. I think we both watched it the same day, and when we watched it, there was only like 2 days left on Amazon Prime before it left, and that was like a week ago. And because of scheduling conflicts, we couldn't even get to it until tonight, late tonight. And I barely remember the movie now.
You're such a loser. It's not much to remember. Very little happened.
I mean, I no, I mean, like I get the main gist of it. It's basically the story is basically a most dangerous game adaptation, loosely, very loosely. It's almost not even the same thing, but it is the same concept. You have rich guys hunting poor guys, and then that being the whole thing. I will say this: the major departure from that story to this story that I would never have expected is that Jean Claude Van Damme's character, um, Boudreaux, forget his first name,
If
Chuck.
you say so.
It's Boudreaux. Um, he is not one of the victims. He's not someone who's involved in the games directly. It's more so of like a he's more spiritually in the games. Like he does get hunted throughout the movie. Like towards the end of the movie, he gets hunted, in the latter half. But by that point in the movie, it's not been established that he is one of the victims of the game itself, which I found very interesting. Like at no point does he actually become a part of the games.
I also found that interesting because I thought that that's where the story was going, but instead it's more of a detective crime mystery, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, which is really weird too because this is such a silly concept for there to be like noir elements to it. Like I wouldn't even say that's like very noir esque, but it does take itself very seriously for those portions of the movie where it's like, oh yeah, there's murder, it's homicide. Jean Claude Van Damme's checking out the burnt house so you can find dog tags with bullet holes in them, and it's like, this was a homicide, not a accident.
It's a shame. This used to be such a nice part of town.
Yeah. God, back when they used to make things in this country.
God damn it, you got it to me first! You got to me first!
That was perfect. That was a perfect setup.
Oh, that
Um,
was perfect.
no, but yeah, I just thought that was a very interesting point of the movie. I also found it really interesting that, realistically speaking, the female character, whose name I do not remember, I could not tell you what it is, very forgettable, at a certain point in the movie just does not need to be there anymore.
Nope.
Like once she finds out her
You forget
dad,
she's been there.
like once she finds out her dad is dead, and there's no reason for her to be in the rest of the movie proper. Like I guess you could say she's there to help like find out her dad, like what happened to her dad, especially specifically. I mean, but other than that, like she really doesn't need to be in the rest of the movie because she doesn't really do anything.
No.
But I mean, those are just like some of the negatives. But I will now get into some of the positives that I had.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few. I had a few.
Our boy Lance showed up again.
Lance Hendrickson, back to back. That was unexpected. That was unplanned, unexpected. Back to back movies with Lance Hendrickson. We did Aliens. Now it'll be 2 weeks ago. we're we're on a we were supposed to be on a weekly cycle. We're on an accidental bi-weekly cycle here. But Lance
If
Hendrickson,
that's what we need to do, that's what we'll do.
if that's what has to happen, that's what has to happen. I mean, it is what it is. And so Lance Hendrickson is probably one of the best things about this movie. He's really funny in this movie.
We're
He
really crazy.
he's really crazy. He's so funny though. Like I love his lines where he's like yelling at his henchmen in the most like derogatory way possible. Like he's kicking this one guy and he's like, I will fuck you and then I will eat you. It's so funny. I mean, he's just so condescending. He's so ridiculously over the top. Um, and it's so funny too because I know that uh, in my minimal research I did for this, Lance Henriksen was actually like he really wanted to work with John Woo, even if he felt like the script wasn't where like it needed to be. He really wanted to work with John Woo because John Woo at this point in his career was just absolutely killing it over in Hong Kong. That when he made it to the states were like, or I think it was Paramount was like, we want you to make a rated R movie and make it action, make it kick ass, and you can pick whoever you want to be in the lead. And I think initially he was going to pick Kurt Russell, but he ended up going with Jean Claude Van Damme because Kurt Russell was booked out for like 7 years.
Hell yeah, he was.
Yeah, and speaking of Jean Claude Van Damme, I think he does good. I think this is one of the weird movies where I feel like he just perfectly fits into the plot. He perfectly fits into this type of story, even if I don't think that the plot necessarily goes in the direction that it probably should go for for like what the setup is. Like Jean Claude Van Damme is the perfect person to end up in the games, like how it should be. Um, I just think that the character that he plays is probably the best written character for him.
I agree. I can see what you mean. I think this movie would have been better if just Wilford Brimley was the main guy the whole time.
That's Lance Hendrickson.
No, Wilford Brimley is the Uncle Duvet character.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you. I got you.
He's the diabetes commercial guy.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he's funny in the movie too.
I don't know. I really liked him.
He's a good part of the movie.
The movie stepped up a notch once he got here.
It's really funny though because he's here, like he's referenced earlier on in the movie, but then he just like appears and like now he's the main character.
Yeah, he's just here for the rest of the movie, and then you're kind of upset if he almost dies.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, he's cool. I like him. I thought he was really interesting. Um, but do you? It's so funny to me because I'm like, do you get the sense that that guy is the guy that would have raised Jean Claude Van Damme's character, JCVD's
That makes sense.
character? Does it?
I think so.
I mean, it could. I just think that when you look at some of the things that
Just a
JC,
French Cajun guy in Louisiana swamp. It makes sense.
who's kind of like a survivalist type
Uh huh.
deal, I mean, that part makes sense. But do you really look at
That's why he looks like a school shooter when he's on the docks trying to get a job. It makes complete sense.
Yeah, he's such a social outcast. It's so funny.
Hmm.
It's so funny too, because like that really is true. Like he's such a social outcast character that he can't work with like people. Like he has terrible people skills, and so he like stands apart from everybody else, like figuratively
It
and like
completely makes sense.
physically. And he doesn't quite fit in with like the homeless people either, because he technically has a place to live, which is weird.
He didn't fit in with the military.
Didn't fit in with the military. I mean, it's such a it's honestly like probably more well written than it has any right to be for like
Yeah,
for what that character, and the fact that they made
it's
it
one
take
of the weird parts because he does fit in.
it's like uh like the way they set it in New Orleans and were like this character is like heavily Cajun is just so funny to me. Like they had to do everything they could to make Jean Claude Van Damme make sound natural in the movie.
It's like the same kind of thing that they're working with in Highlander, where they're just like, well, this guy, he's from deep Scotland,
Yeah.
and that's why he sounds so raspy.
Oof, man, we gotta put Highlander on the wheel.
No, we don't.
You don't want to?
I really here's my thing. That's a ripe property that deserves to have a remake and really needs one.
Okay.
Let's put that on the list for what we should make.
Oh, for what we should petition to get made, or we
Hmm.
personally should make it.
What our Run Amok production should take on
The defunct
is
Run Amok
there should only
Productions.
been one.
I gotcha.
Oh, I still put it in my movies. Don't you worry. I keep it alive.
Good, Good. I'm glad.
Anytime that you're involved, I put run amok.
Did you say the name should be there should be only one?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the name of
Highlander, there should only be one.
there will be only one. Or no, it's there can be only one.
Yeah, there can be only one.
Don't even include the Highlander part. Just call it there can be only one, and then see how
And
well
the
it
real
does.
ones will know.
Real ones will know. See how well it does in theaters. What do you think
He's
about
the Highlander.
what do you think about the movie name Hard Target?
Um,
Is he a hard
I mean,
target?
I've been making a lot of jokes about the title, so I think it actually kind of works. At first, I was like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard," but every day since I've seen it, I've been like, "Well, I just couldn't get him. He was just such a hard target."
He is. He's such a hard target.
It's grown on me. It's grown on me.
You know, it's fascinating to me. It's like the different characters in this movie, like the detective character who gets killed halfway into the movie. I've really found her an interesting character. For some reason, I get Ernie Hudson vibes from The Crow, except
I could see it.
she's a detective character that doesn't really do anything. It's so interesting how many characters in this movie just appear and then don't really do anything. Ultimately,
It's a motif. It's a motif of old action movies. Let me tell you.
well, do you think it has anything to do? And this is where
Uh oh.
my good cop persona is going to shed a little bit. Do you think it has anything to do with sort of the egocentric nature that is Jean-Claude Van Damme movies?
I mean, it almost has to. But what I thought was hysterically funny is that that's the only police officer we see in the whole movie.
Yeah, pretty much. Like even
That's
when
the only one. And then she's like, I think I might be able to get to the bottom of this case.
yeah,
Not the open, broad daylight shootings of homeless people with crowds of hundreds of witnesses. And she's like, I might be able to put, I might think I know who did this.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we are kind of led to believe that there's some amount of police corruption involved, like at least with like the coroner and stuff.
I mean, yeah,
Um,
they're just not there.
they're just not there. I mean, even when we're introduced to that character, like she's completely alone and by herself, and is basically just left to her own devices. I guess we're not even. I don't even know if we're like giving her rank or anything like that. She's just a detective character. Um,
But yeah, it definitely has to do with he's just like, this is my movie.
yeah, I mean that seems to be the case with most Jean Claude Van Damme movies, and that's kind of where he gives off his Steven Seagal energy. Because there's only two people that I can think of that are legends in the action genre that make movies the way these guys make movies, and it's Jean Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal. They just kind of go hand in hand. I know they had like a little bit of a rivalry going on too. Like they wouldn't really acknowledge each other in their circles, and like the circles that uh, would force them to acknowledge each other. And I think even God, what was it? Was yeah, it was Demolition Man that we were talking about, where Steven Seagal and Jean Claude Van Damme were gonna play the Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes roles, but nobody wanted to play the bad guy.
Silly, silly.
Yeah,
It's a legendary role.
yeah, iconic. Um, but yeah, I mean, but you know, putting the good cop hat back on, I will say that that whole egotism aspect of the movie is honestly probably one of the things that works the most about the movie, because you have probably some of the funniest. This is probably one of the funniest, or is the funniest movie we've covered so far. And
I don't think it knows it is though.
that's the point. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't even realize how funny it is. It thinks it's being so hard and so badass that it doesn't realize that it comes off as like overcompensating a little bit. And I think that's what makes it so funny. Like all those scenes, like I'll just go ahead and say my favorite still image of the movie is 5848, uh, at 58 minutes 48 seconds, where Jean Claude Van Damme is racing. He's playing chicken with that one truck that during that big car chase.
Yeah.
And during that chase scene, he is running his motorcycle into the truck, and he stands up on the truck, on the motorcycle as it's moving. And he's got two dueling pistols,
It's
and he's just firing gung ho at this truck.
incredible.
It's incredible. It's such an
I don't know what
incredible
you're talking
image.
about.
It's an incredible image. No, that's what I'm saying. It's my whole argument. It's incredible.
This movie is incredible. What are we even arguing about?
And then and that stunt where you see the motorcycle slam into the truck, and then you see somebody like tumble over the vehicle. I just want to give a quick shout out. That's JCVD's stunt double, Mark Stefanich.
Incredible work.
Yeah, I really just wanted to give that guy a shout out because that was pretty incredible. Oh yeah, I see it right here. Wilford Brimley as Duvet. I just now saw that. I had taken a screenshot of like the credits for the movie, and like that happened to be in there. Anyway, yeah. So Michael Stefanich. That's my favorite image of the movie, and then there's all these other like egocentric um, points of the movie that I thought were really incredible. That just really spoke to my soul. Like when he catches that rattlesnake out of the air, and he goes to like slap it, and it kind of like wiggles around, and then he punches the snake.
Oh, it was just incredible.
Yeah, and then he reaches around and bites its rattle off like a savage. Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite parts of the movie. I laughed so hard when he punches the
I
snake.
I could not believe this was like in the movie when it was happening.
Oh, I know. What were some of your favorite, just like, oh yeah, this is all for Van Damme's ego right here. This is an ego trip right here.
Just all of the spinning wheel kicks that we got to see him do when he didn't need to.
No, no, yeah.
So many where I was like, "You're standing right in front of him. Why did you think that was necessary?"
You could have just punched him.
He could have just punched him. He could have done anything, but he did a spinning wheel kick with a cartwheel thrown in.
Yeah. I'm always reminded of that movie, Max Payne, or not Max Payne, Major Payne.
Major pain.
Yeah, where he tells that guy he's gonna put this foot on that side of your face. And I always imagine that's what Van Damme is saying to himself. Just do the kick. Do the kick. Yeah.
Do the kick.
Um yeah, I love in the beginning of the movie, like when we first get introduced to his character and he comes out to save the love interest from those thugs, and he pulls back his overcoat to like reveal his leg. As if
He's
he's
revving up the engine.
as if he's got like a gun holstered, but it's his death legs, you know. And then and you could just see, it's uh left leg hospital, right leg cemetery on these legs of death.
Mirko Cobb.
He's got the crow cop legs,
It's incredible.
and he just starts going to town, like he's just firing off. Um, I mean, the action in this movie in general, like if we were to just go into that, the action in this movie is pretty good. It's pretty good, I'd say.
I had a great time with the spectacle of it. It was like every time they started talking, I would like feel myself start to zone out more and more. But the second that there was action on screen or guns shooting, I was like, "Oh, here we go, here we go." Now they got my attention.
This is what we came for.
This is what I came. This is what I bought my ticket for.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, so I would say the action's really good. I think Jean Claude Van Damme is a great kicker. That's like the biggest. That's the biggest spectacle to
First
me.
round draft pick.
Yeah, exactly. Great kicker. Uh, the action in general, I think the car chase is probably a good highlight for me. Because I really like that stunt. It's my favorite stunt in the movie, where he jumps over the car. I mean, the final action scene I think is okay. I really just remember it as him just kind of like coming around the corner and shooting people, or coming around the corner and like knocking people out, just kind of like picking guys off one by one. Um,
What's really funny about that last action sequence, like the last 30 minutes where they're fighting with all the Mardi Gras floats and stuff,
yeah.
I had seen that scene years and years ago on TV and had been searching for it. It was like the one thing of nostalgia that this movie had for me is that I had seen that scene where Lance Hendrickson is like, drop your weapon, and he unloads all the shotgun shells, and then he puts the grenade in Lance's like in his pants, and he's got to get it out real fast and explode, and then our boy our boy Uncle Duvet was saved by his whiskey flask. Like I had seen all of that and was like, oh, that's where it's from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was incredible. That scene's really great. I had the whole first fight was my favorite scene, but my favorite stunt was that Lance has the part where his jacket is set on fire, and it's actually him, and he's delivering lines while he's on fire.
Yeah, that's a good one. I forgot about
I
that.
thought that was incredible. I was like, they would never do that again, especially not for like a low budget movie like this. They would never do that nowadays.
Yeah, no, that was really interesting. I remember that. Yeah, this movie was made on. Oh God. Ugh, excuse me.
Oh, he's tired. Big man.
Tired boy. Yeah. This movie was made on like a $20 million budget. Made 70 million at the box office. So moderate returns. Moderate returns.
Moderate returns.
Yeah. No, enough for John Woo to keep going in Hollywood for sure.
Stake his claim.
Yeah. I mean, for a first time Hollywood movie, this is about as, what you'd expect. You know what, Lincoln? I haven't really heard from you is a lot of the bad cop stuff. We've been hearing all the good cop stuff.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to stuff, but let me tell you, the first line of my entire notes is bad line readings,
By
just in general.
I was about to say, I think I know who we're talking about, but uh
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to fault Van Damme for speaking a second language poorly, but everybody is speaking like this is their second language
Yeah. I mean, I
when it's
agree.
not.
I agree. That is like the thing you have to basically just accept with JCVD movies is the guy does not speak English as a first language, so sometimes his lines are gonna come off unnaturally, or they're gonna come off like a guy that does not speak this as a native language. I mean, it makes sense.
I'm not going to fault him for that,
I'm not gonna
but
not gonna fault him.
I am going to fault everybody else speaking like they're trying to match his speech pattern.
Yeah, I think about the actress that plays the love interest a lot. I feel so bad. I'm not really giving her due credit here because I can't remember her at all. Um, but she she has a lot of that. She has a lot of those problems. And from what I understand, this was also like her first big movie. Like this was her first film. And she would go on to like have like a pretty decent career after this. But this
Yancey Butler's playing
Yancey,
Nat.
yes, Yancey Butler. This was like her first movie. So it's
What's
kind
crazy is that there's a Hard Target too,
yeah, with Scott Atkins.
and it's played in 2016. Why?
And it has nothing to do with Jean-Claude Van Damme or anything in the original movie.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah.
Oh, but I also wanted to bring up that there's a part where Arnold Vosloo, who plays the mummy in The Mummy,
Yep.
he does a karate chop to a sleeping Randall Poe character
Yeah.
on his big old belly at a certain point, and I was like, who just karate chops somebody when they're asleep?
Villains.
Villains.
The villains. He makes a good bad guy.
Dude, a crazy-eyed bad guy, and you don't want to hurt his feelings, do you?
No. You hurt. You don't. You hurt my feelings.
You don't want to hurt my feelings, do you?
No. See, I remember that line. I remember that line, Reed.
I had it in my notes.
Yeah.
And then my third note is this blows.
The movie blows.
The movie blows. And then I keep going, and then I also is like there's a certain note where I just went, there's so much evidence against these guys. If there was any cops, they would have had an open and closed case. They
Oh
shoot
yeah.
people in broad daylight. They leave guns, blood, and fingerprints all over Randall's house. They shoot him in his car, and they don't pick up anything. And then they shoot the police officer right there as well.
Yeah.
There's no way these guys aren't going down for a long fucking time, big boy.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of just goes to show you how deep they must have the cops in their pocket if they can just get away with actual murder.
It's insane.
Yeah, because I mean,
Incredible.
Voslow's character straight up just shotgun blast that dude right in the face.
Yeah, and then shoots the cop, the lady cop, right after that.
Yeah.
The detective Mitchell.
Yeah. Yeah, she's super dead.
Super dead in the street.
So let's weigh some of the pros and cons here. So you've got the pros, which we've already mentioned: good action, um, good fun, bad like egotism, and the spectacle we've talked about being really nice. Cons: bad line reads, which comes from a lot of people, comes from a couple of different people, except Lance Hendrickson. And
I always love Lance.
what else do you got?
Poor pacing.
Okay, fair. Mm.
Um,
The fact that the plot does not come back into itself. Like when that whole aspect of like I felt like you could have cut out that whole part where Boudreaux's friend gets enrolled into the game of death and then dies and like goes through it and then dies. You probably could have cut that whole sequence out.
you probably could have. You could even cut out the Yancy Butler character entirely and
just have the movie
Jean
focus
Claude
on
Van
his
Damme
like you could have just
in
had the
the
movie focus on his friend, right?
yeah, like have that start with his friend, and like that's who she's looking for, if anything, or focus on his friend that he's looking for, and then he's in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Because if you completely just take out I mean, obviously you wouldn't have a movie. You wouldn't have enough runtime for a movie and it probably wouldn't make any
I feel like
sense.
we could have.
I
We could have had a very different movie on our hands.
I feel like we could have had a different movie and we could kind of like workshop what that is, but I mean, you've got let's say you take out anything having to do with Natasha's character. You take out all the stuff about her dad, and then you just focus strictly on the stuff having to do with Boudreaux. He still can't get work. He still can't go on that ship until he gets some kind of money. Um, so he starts talking to his buddy, whose a name I don't remember. Um, but his
You're
but
doing
his
great at this today.
thank you. I know. I feel it. I feel like I'm talking good. I'm just not remembering really well.
I'm not a good rememberer.
No.
We're talking about Willie C. Carpenter playing Elijah Roper.
Roper. Okay. So then he starts talking to his buddy Roper. His buddy Roper is this guy. He delivers these flyers for the big fat character. And
Randall Poe.
yeah, he's like, "Oh, I'm making some money with this guy. You should go through him." So he goes through him, and then one day Roper's like, "Yeah, I just got an offer for like $10,000 or something like that, and I'm gonna go through with it." Well, then that whole sequence plays out pretty similarly to how it did in the original cut. Roper still dies because I like the scene where Roper dies. I like the scene where he's like going around trying to like ask people for help, and people just think he's just
They're all
some
like, you bum.
yeah, they just think he's some bum trying to like get money and stuff like that or bother them and stuff. So they're literally just like, dude, just leave us alone. Even
I
though
love it.
I like that scene, I like the sentiment behind that scene. I think what doesn't work about the scene is that he literally could just be like, help, somebody's after me, they're trying to kill me, call the cops. Like, I think he only says call the cops like once, but he should just be like, gun, somebody's got a gun, and then people will just start freaking out.
They
But
should have, but you know,
anyway, I digress.
not a lot of it makes sense.
No, but I'll digress. That that whole sequence plays out like it did in the original cut. Then you get the part where like Boudreaux is like, "Oh man, Roper's dead" or whatever, and then he comes into contact with Detective Mitchell, and then we make Detective Mitchell a much more like proactive character, right? That's when they kind of start working together, and they're like, "All right, what happened? What changed?" And that's when Boudreaux's like, "Oh, well, he went and he talked to this guy who sells these who hands out these flyers and we makes money. He said he had a big job through that guy." And so then they're like, okay, now we're gonna go. And Detective Mitchell's like, okay, well, none of my superiors are gonna do anything. The only way we're gonna catch this guy is if we go undercover. That's when Jean Claude.
That's when.
That's when Jean Claude Van Damme's character goes undercover and is like, I want to. I want what I want to. He gets approached or he goes undercover. Somehow he gets like into. He gets in on the inside, and that's when like he starts like doing the game and like the game and stuff happens, and that's what the whole rest of the movie could be.
I love it. Now we're in.
Yeah, now we're in. Because I mean, because like you said, like you don't really need like Natasha's character is like what kind of like gets the movie going, but do you really need it?
Do you really need it? Could we have a different incendiary thing to get the story going?
Exactly. Like what else can we get to get the initiative off the ground? And I think we just I think what I just kind of not to like, to my own horn or anything, but I think I just kind of laid out.
I think I just cracked the
I
code.
think I just fucking made an Oscar worthy movie right there.
Mhm.
Um no, but I mean like seriously, like if that's what the rest of the movie was about, I think that makes sense. Might be a bit of a shorter movie. It might be, if we don't flesh things out, it might be shorter by like 20 minutes.
I mean, would it be the worst thing ever?
I don't think so. I don't think it would be much different, but
No, not even a little bit.
no, I think because I
Because
mean,
this movie's bad, let me tell you.
oh my god, what?
It's absolute horseshit.
Oh, whatever.
But it was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch. It was a good. I think it was like if we were gonna call it bad, I'd say it was like fun bad. I don't think it was like
It's fun bad. It's the bottom, absolute bottom of our tier list. But
so
I had a
far.
great time. Yeah,
That's
so
funny.
far.
That is funny. I mean, I guess if I had to agree with you, it's probably what I would say. I don't know. It's definitely up there.
You're gonna agree with me. You are.
I'll
Don't
I'll
you worry.
I'll, I'll hop on board with that
Hey,
sentiment.
I'm gonna pick my battles. This is one of them.
This is one. I won't fight you on this. I won't fight you on
Good.
this. I
You
promise.
better not.
Did you have any other
I
thoughts or
put Demolition
feelings?
Man so high.
Thank you, and I appreciated that. Hey, that's not gonna go unnoticed. Did you have any other thoughts or feelings about this movie?
Let me check my notes real fast just to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go over your categories or your notes or whatever, you can go ahead and just do that because I don't have anything left to offer.
No, I talked about most of all. I really thought this movie was really bad, but I had a great time, and it's really funny. It's really dumb, and Jean Claude Van Damme really knows how to kick ass.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that sentiment. I do think that I don't know if I could say I enjoyed it more than you because I do feel like you and I both kind of have the exact same thoughts and feelings about it. Um, I don't know if it's that I necessarily just walk away with a less negative attitude. Um, because I had fun. I had fun.
I had
Um,
fun.
yeah, and I think that's the most important takeaway here is it's a fun movie. It's a good popcorn movie. It's good turn your brain off and just watch kind of movie or point and laugh and just kind of have fun, enjoy yourself. That's kind of the end of Hard Target there.
Hard target.
So now we'll be moving
Here we
into
go.
we'll be moving into a nice little segment
Let's
here.
see if you mess this one up.
I probably will, but we'll see what happens. So Last week when this was the movie we were doing, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I noticed we started doing a lot more. Well, not more, but this was a 90s movie, and I felt like this was a very specific 90s movie. And 90s action movies have their own special place in my heart, as I know they do yours,
Of course.
with a lot of people. And my thought was, I was like, oh, how cool would it be if I did a list going over my favorite action movies of the 90s? So that's what I did. I know I'm still waiting on yours, but I have mine ready, so I'm just going to go ahead and do mine.
Yeah, when you said it had a whole PowerPoint, I was like, I don't think I'm going to be ready in time.
No. Here, let me go ahead and just set it up. And then we'll see if we're Gucci. Oh, yeah, we're Gucci. Okay. So, this is Garrett's top 11 90s action movies. You're going to be in on this with me, Lincoln. We're kind of be
All right.
you'll be doing it blind, but you'll be interested by some of my choices here. So this is top 11 uh honorable mentions. I decided to just do like four honorable mentions. These are like four movies that I thought of when I was making the list, but not movies that I like enough to say, "Oh yeah, I fuck with that movie so hard." And some of these I do. And I just watched one of these the other day. So the four movies are Mission Impossible, The Matrix, The Professional, and The Crow. And
Pretty good, pretty good.
I just watched The Crow again last night, and still a great movie. I can't wait to watch the remake. Still don't feel like it cracks my top 11, interestingly enough. And I think that's more because it's much more of a stylized movie than I would say a straight up hardcore action movie. But I do put it in the action genre, and it's just didn't quite crack the top. Mission Impossible didn't quite crack the top either because I don't think
Interesting.
the first Mission Impossible is as good as some of the later Mission Impossible. I think Mission Impossible as a franchise is probably most notable for having like a pretty mid first couple of movies and then having like pretty good later couple of movies.
It's one of the rare reverse equations.
Yeah. Then The Matrix. This one I was like really going back and forth on about like how I felt about it. Um, I like the action in the movie. I like things about the movie in general. I think I just have to like and again, like with anything on this list, it's totally interchangeable. It could change any day. This is just how I felt when I made the list. But The Matrix didn't quite make the cut. And then there's The Professional, otherwise known as Leon.
Leon the Professional.
Yeah,
I mean, that movie rocks.
yeah. I love that movie. That movie's great. It just didn't quite crack the top because it makes me feel a little ewy sometimes.
It's a little icky.
It's a little icky, but I also recognize that it's pretty badass at certain moments. But yeah, so anyway, getting into the rest of the list proper, we're getting into number 11, The Boondock Saints.
Interesting. Also, a movie that kind of makes me feel icky at some points, but I love it.
Yes, yes. This movie is really funny. I always remember Willem Dafoe's performance in this as the gay detective. He's really funny. The two guys, Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus. Norman Reedus, obviously most famous for his role as Daryl in The Walking Dead. But dude,
Got his own show.
this is a great movie. This movie's way funnier than it has any right to be. The Rocco character is super funny. The action sequences are like perfectly over the top. Just like my kind of action for an action movie. And now I try to watch this movie every year on St. Patrick's Day.
That's incredible. Hot take. Second one's better.
Really, I haven't seen it.
Really?
All Saints Day? No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, second one slaps, bro.
I'll have to check it out.
You have no idea.
Yeah, I can't wait. So that's number 11. Number 10, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Gross.
Gross. It was
I don't
basically
acknowledge any of the sequels.
I basically so when we did the Die Hard episode, I had mentioned that I think my second favorite one is Die Hard with a Vengeance. And so when I was making this list, I was like, it didn't even come down to, oh, do I like Die Hard 2 or Die Hard 3 better? I was just immediately, I was like, Die Hard with a Vengeance because it's so different from the first two movies. Like, the first movie is like the Die Hard movie. It's got that formula. It's got its own thing. Die Hard 2 is basically just a rehashing of that, just in a different setting. And then Die Hard 3 is where it becomes its own separate thing. It's kind of like the first of the Die Hard movies to kind of branch out and just do something different. And I really respect it for that. I really love the performances in it. I love the stakes in it. Jeremy Irons and Samuel L. Jackson have their own great roles that they come together and just have a really amazing thing. And the action's really good. The stakes are incredible. I love the whole like cat and mouse game throughout the whole thing, and I just really enjoyed that.
Why do you keep calling me Jesus? He said, that's your name, right? And he goes, no. He said, hey, Zeus.
It's such a funny movie too. Like I love lines like that. So yeah, that's number 10. Number 9, The Mummy. We
Classic.
were just talking about Arnold Vosloo, and yeah, he was the mummy in this movie. Brendan Fraser kicks ass in this movie. I really like this movie for mainly the same reasons I like a lot of movies. It's very nostalgic to me. This is probably one of the most nostalgic movies on this list. I've got a few.
Classic.
I've got like two or three more ones that are just like absolutely nostalgic, and they probably rank as high as they do because of nostalgia. This movie's on here for nostalgia. I also just think it's really funny. I think it's really cool. Brendan Fraser's character is like what I think of when I think of like your typical action hero kind of guy. And
You're on the wrong side of the river.
yeah, I like that it's basically this homage to pulpy, campy, like these action movies of the 50s and 60s. I really appreciate that about this movie. So, yeah, The Mummy, number 9. Going into number 8, Rush Hour. Yes. Rush Hour.
Classic.
Jackie Chan.
So silly.
I had to put a Jackie Chan movie on here. It just felt like
You had to get one.
it felt like I was doing a disservice to one of the greatest cinematic martial artists of all time if I didn't put at least one of his movies on here. And I decided to go with the movie that I have. I decided to go with his movie that I have the most nostalgia for, and that's Rush Hour. I love this movie. I think it's so funny. Even now, as an adult, I think it's still funny. I used to love it as a kid. When I was a kid and I was watching this movie, I used to die laughing at Chris Tucker.
Oh, I still do.
Yeah, now as an adult, I laugh at Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. Whereas as a kid, I was always watching for Jackie Chan in his fights. Um, I will say, I think Rush Hour 2 is probably the better movie with the better action sequences and the better jokes. But but that was like in the 2000s, so I had to go with the original Rush Hour here. So yeah, that's number 8. Number 7, we got an oldie but a goldie. We got Demolition Man.
You had to get it in. Get
I
it out
had
of here. What's number 6?
I had to get it on here.
What's number 6?
You knew it was coming. You knew it was
What's
gonna
number
happen.
6?
We have a whole podcast where we talk about Demolition Man. Make sure you go check it out.
Two of them.
Two of them technically, but just go ahead and check out the Action Jack-Offs episode where we talk about it. That's my favorite one that we've that we've done talking about it. I won't go into too much detail. I just think this is a really good movie.
Number 6 is.
Number 6 is Speed.
There we go. Now we're talking about a movie.
Another
A
great
classic,
movie.
a gem.
Another great movie that we've talked about before on an episode of the Action Jack-Offs. That was the first time I'd ever seen the movie, was when we did that
Oh, I'm so
episode.
happy. And you're going to watch that once a year. I know you will.
So yeah, so it's funny to think that I just watched this movie and it's already like
So high.
it's already so high on my list of favorite 90s action movies. It almost cracks the top 5. It doesn't quite crack the top 5 because
Oh, Point Break's going to be your number 2. Let me tell you.
well, I have not included movies I haven't seen.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
But
Once you see once you see it, it's gonna be way up there.
yeah,
You have no idea.
yeah. So, like I said, I won't say much about Speed. I haven't already said before. Make sure you go check out the episode of Action Jack-0ffs where we talk about Speed, and then you'll get most of my thoughts there. And yeah, so moving on to number 5. This is the top 5. Start with Total Recall. 1990
Slaps.
slaps. That's pretty much all you have to say about it. The 90s. When I think about the 90s, as much as I do the 80s, I think about Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
That's when he really took over.
That's that. I mean, because especially with Total Recall, this was 1990, so this was like right at the cutoff. And I love Total Recall. Total Recall is funny. Total Recall has, I think of when I think of, I don't really think of the action when I think of Total Recall, except for like a few moments, like that scene where he's beating up those guys that tried to jump him after he got out of Recall. And he kind of like kills them, but like he doesn't realize what he's doing until he's already like killed them. I
I
usually
always think of the escalator scene.
I think about the what when they're on when they're going up the escalator and that Michael Ironside's arms get chopped off.
Yeah, that as well as whenever Arnold grabs a random bystander and he gets shot into Swiss cheese.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
I
see,
always think of that scene.
for some reason I thought you meant elevator, so I was thinking about that other scene that I
I
didn't
might have
mention.
said elevator on
No, no,
accident. Escalator for sure.
you said escalator, and for some reason I couldn't remember an escalator sequence, and then as soon as you started describing it, I was like, oh yeah, yeah. I usually think about the effects in this movie more than I think about anything
Hmm.
else. Like I think about
Good squibs,
the
crazy,
squibs,
crazy animatronic effects with some of the
yeah,
like
like
aliens and stuff.
the um the head, like
Yes,
the
yes,
head
the
that opens
tumorous
up,
head monster thing.
yeah, and the mutant coming out of that one dude's stomach,
Hmm.
and then like the X-ray wall, like the wall that's just like all X-rays. I think about so much of that shit. Uh, like so much of that movie is just like iconic to me, and whether or not it has to do with the action is kind of like up in the air. I like it as more of like a science fiction movie than I do as an action movie, but since it's an action movie, it ranks really high on my action list.
Love it.
Yeah. So going on to number 4, we have True Lies.
Ooh,
Yeah.
you sleazy dog.
Yeah. Another Schwarzenegger movie. I couldn't help it. I had to put this one on here. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's my personal favorite James Cameron movie, except for maybe like one other movie. This is my aside from maybe Titanic. This is probably the last good James Cameron movie that's like just good with no flaws.
Avatar slaps. I'll have no disrespect on James Cameron's name.
I will not speak on that. But yeah, no, True Lies is great. Great premise. Very, very, very funny movie. I mean, this movie, it's almost like you can't, it's so hard to tell if this movie at a certain point is an action movie or a comedy, but it works best as both.
Another amazing Bill Paxton comedy performance where he's
Oh,
like wetting himself and everything.
great Bill Paxton performance. Great Jamie Lee Curtis performance. And I dare say this is probably one of the best acting performances from Arnold himself.
It's the most natural. He feels like he's really like playing. He's really having fun.
Yes, yes, and you could just tell that from what he puts on screen. So yeah, that's number 4. Number 3, Blade.
There we go. Now we're talking.
I love Blade. Blade is so fun. It is a fun, campy, over the top, just in your face type of movie. Um, I love Blade.
Absolutely cannot wait
We might
to talk
even.
about this
I was about to
one.
say we might be talking about this one come October, so keep an eye
Oh,
out.
it's just I just can't wait to sink my teeth into it.
You had to say it.
I had to.
All right. So getting into number 2,
Whew.
we have probably the most well put together of these movies. We got Terminator 2.
Ah, Speaking of Cameron,
Yes, this is what I was
what a
referencing.
legend.
This is what I was referencing when I was like, this is probably when I said True Lies is probably my favorite James Cameron movie aside from one other movie. This is probably the one I was talking about.
It's just
Uh,
a chef's kiss, is all it is.
Now, do I prefer the original Terminator? Probably.
I do as well. But if we're talking about just an absolute masterpiece that has no flaws whatsoever, you gotta be talking about T2.
T2 is up there for sure. T2, like I said, is probably the most well put together of these movies. It's the most well made. I think at the time it was the most expensive movie ever made, and you can really tell that
Is
from the
is a
effects.
phenomenon.
I love the special effects in this movie. I love the action in this movie. I love Arnold in this movie. And yes, I am aware that 3 of my top 5 favorite 90s action movies are all Arnold movies. That's just the name of the game, you know?
When he took the belt, he had the '90s championship action hero belt
Ex-
around his waist for the whole '90s. Let me tell you.
exactly. And then with once he retired in like 2003, that's pretty much like we were just done with making
He just
movies.
put it away.
Yeah.
He put it on the shelf.
He put the whole genre on the shelf. But no, yeah, Terminator 2 I think is just pretty much flawless in all regards, but it is surpassed by one movie ahead
One
of it.
movie.
And that movie is The Mask of Zorro.
I hate you. You wasted all of my time for this bit.
No,
You
no.
think the Mask of Zorro is watchable?
The Mask of Zorro is my number
I'm about to
one.
hang up.
The The Mask of Zorro is my number
And you made
one.
me stay up all this time for this to be your number one above Terminator?
This is definitely the
I
movie I
spit on
reckon.
your grave.
I definitely recognize. I'll definitely be the first to admit that I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie. That is why it's at number one. But when I watch this movie, it reminds me so much of some of my favorite movies of all time. Like I get Batman 89 vibes from this movie a lot. I get Crow vibes. I get um, just so many vibes from a lot of my favorite movies from this movie. Indiana Jones is in there. Um, this is my favorite Antonio Banderas movie. I think the action in it is amazing. I think it's so funny. I think it's such a charming movie. I think that's what it gets me. It's such a charming movie.
You think the bee from the Nasonex commercial is better than Terminator 2?
It's got Anthony Hopkins.
Garrett, you're broken.
Maybe, but I'll let the people
You put this
decide.
above Speed?
I'll let the people decide. I'm telling you, man.
Hey,
I'm telling
dude,
you.
you've got lost all your subscribers for this, let me tell you.
I'm putting you on game right now. I
I'm
promise you.
unsubscribing.
I am putting you on absolute game right now. The Mask of Zorro is it. It is him.
I'm sorry, but
He has risen.
all right. Well, it's been a good night talking to you guys on the Action Jackson podcast.
All right. I'll put that one away. I'll put that one to bed. But oh shit.
Hurt my feelings, why don't you?
All right, let's go ahead and do our wheel.
Woo! I forgot about the wheel.
Just delete that real fast. I don't need that. Okay, let's do the wheel. Yeah, I forgot to pull it up even.
Didn't even have the wheel ready.
I was so like intent on getting my PowerPoint across. I 110% forgot about the wheel.
Me too.
Okay, there we go.
We're spinning the wheel where me and Gary spin the wheel. See what move.
Okay, let's see what we had in here. Okay, so tell you what,
We've got to spin. Got
we
to
got
spin the
Roadhouse.
wheel.
So we got Roadhouse, Lethal Weapon, Transformers, Over the Top, National Treasure, iRobot, Yojimbo, Yohimbo, excuse me, and Deep Blue Sea. You know, do we want to add anything in there? Anything crazy?
No,
No, you're good.
I'm good with those. I feel like I got a good number of picks on there still.
Yeah, I've still got Lethal Weapon and Roadhouse, and then you've got.
If you'd like to add
There was one I was thinking about.
anything,
I think I want to put RoboCop on there.
put RoboCop on there. Why don't you?
Come on, RoboCop. That's RobiCop. I said RoboCop.
I'll leave it.
We'll put
RoboCop's funnier.
we'll put yeah, we'll put RoboCop on there, and then we'll just go for the spin, and we'll see what we get.
Spin the wheel, Care Bear.
It's RoboCop. That's not fair. It just got put on there.
No. I
Do you want to do a respin?
want to respin.
I'll do a respin, and I'll hide this choice for now because it didn't feel right putting RoboCop.
Doesn't feel right.
Okay, speaking of robots, can you guess?
What's that?
I said speaking of robots, it's iRobot.
Oh, with Will Smith. What a great movie. I can't wait to talk about iRobot.
Yeah. Okay. So there you have it.
Perfect.
Yeah. So there you have
Then
it.
that'll take iRobot will take RoboCop's place on the wheel, and then we got it. Perfect.
Yeah, and then we'll put RoboCop back in for next week.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Alrighty. Well, that's gonna be it from us, everybody. So we will
Can't
see you
wait.
guys later. Peace.
Later. Peace.